Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sammamish City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, February 4th. We have some folks that are here and some that are absent, but we will go ahead and call this meeting to order and do roll call, please.
Mayor Karen Howe,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Amy Lamb,
Here.
Councilmember Kaylee Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Pamela Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember Kent Treen,
Present.
Councilmember Sid Gupta,
Here.
Councilmember Roisin O'Farrell.
She has an excused absence. I'll ask for a motion to get an excused absence.
I
Thank
motion to excuse Roisin O'Farrell from this meeting.
Second.
So moved, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. So let's move on to Pledge of Allegiance. And Councilmember Gupta, if you could do the land acknowledgement, that would be great.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you. And now I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition, so measure is approved, our motion is approved. So we will now go to the favorite part, public comment. So we will start with public comment of folks in the room. And Pal Agarwal is first.
If you could go to the podium back there, I think, yes. And they will have 9 minutes. There's 3 speakers together on this one.
Very good.
Good evening to our council members. My name is Pahal Agarwal.
I'm Muskan Shamir. And I'm Nada Abdulrahim.
We are sophomores at East Lake High School, and today we come to you to present an increasing issue in our community, which is peer pressure. Peer pressure is when friends or people around you influence your choices, actions, or attitudes. It can be obvious or subtle, and sometimes it can push you towards great things, while other times it can really trip you down.
Peer pressure is a social influence that shapes various aspects of an individual's behavior and decisions, such as fashion choices, consumer habits, and participation in activities. It also impacts how people treat others, conduct themselves in public, make academic decisions, and engage in risky behaviors. While peer pressure can sometimes encourage positive behaviors, it often has its negative effects, leading to poor choices, unhealthy habits, and compromised values. It can also cause stress, anxiety, and loss of self-confidence. By understanding peer pressure, individuals can strive to make choices that align with their own values and beliefs rather than conforming to their peers' expectations.
Some statistics on peer pressure in the U.S. are that 85% of teens have experienced some form of peer pressure. 80% of teen smokers started smoking due to peer pressure, and 75% of teens who drink alcohol started to because of peer pressure. Alcohol and smoking can have adverse effects on teens' health and futures, so to stop their influence on teen lives, we need to combat peer pressure. Peer pressure by itself has its own effects, including low self-esteem, no sense of self, inability to make their own decisions, emotional exhaustion, and distance in other relationships, all of which are detrimental to adolescent development.
We want to bring your attention to an event that happened within Lake Washington School District. 2 former students of Lake Washington High School passed away due to overdosage of heroin. The reporters interviewed those parents as they talked about how their students were influenced by their peers that led them to go against their beliefs. One of the parents said, and I quote, "I know that one of her friends was using it and convinced her to try it. That was the one thing she said she would never do." Peer pressure highly impacts a student's decision and can change their beliefs and values just to fit in. Not only has peer pressure impacted LWSC, but also the Issaquah district, where a group of students attending Skyline and Ballard High School passed away due to an overdosage of fentanyl. Parents of one of the students said, and I quote, "We also recognize that friends often hold a powerful influence on their peers. Peer pressure is not talked much about in our community, but has a significant impact on students' lives, and that is what we aim to bring to you today."
Spreading awareness has a significant impact on communities when we dedicate time and effort to it. Engaging in campaigns or workshops can equip individuals with knowledge and resources they need to understand mental health issues effectively. By discussing this issue with friends and family, we can help teens and adults in need. Working together, we can create a supportive environment where individuals feel empowered to make their own choices and resist peer pressure. Our idea for you is to host a monthly event where volunteer therapists meet with students seeking for someone to talk to. This would be a safe space for open conversations, guidance, and mental health strategies. If it's held regularly, this meet and greet would offer students the chance to access professional help and connect with others. This initiative is designed to promote mental health awareness and support among students.
We encourage you to implement this solution as it can create a safe space in our community where students can share their experiences with peer pressure, among other life experiences, which can bring them closer. For students, formulating a trustworthy relationship during difficult times can be the life jacket that saves them from cold waters. Creating this space can support them in making such a relationship. Furthermore, an event of this nature can help students navigate through peer pressure with confidence and make choices that truly reflect their own values and beliefs. We also have an Instagram page, which is on your brochure, to get more updates and more information on peer pressure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Was Muscan part of this group? Okay, great, thank you for, is there anybody else who was not able to sign up that would like to give public comment in the room? If not, we'll go to online.
Per the reasonable accommodation, those who had pre-registered by 5 o'clock today, please raise your hand if you wish to give online comment. Jan Bird.
Yes, this is Jan Bird, a resident of Sammamish since the day after Sammamish the people voted to be a city. I wanted to make a comment, the same one I basically made for the SEPA last week for the brownstone, and I'm still against increasing the housing units from 2,000 to 4,000 and raising the height from 6 to 12 stories. I'm really concerned about the ability to evacuate in an emergency with either wildfires or earthquakes. Living on a plateau with limited ways to get out, we need to limit the amount of growth to a reasonable number. I think we also have an issue that transit buses won't go up the steep hill at the town center. Congestion will be an issue. Besides, we already have 3 high schools within 1 mile of each other, and we probably will be adding a 4th one next door in next to Providence Point. And also, a lot of times, some of these newer units, I feel they limit some of the parking. I think, well, everyone will go take transit, but that's going to be a difficult thing to happen here. I mean, and even if we do have a smaller number of people in the town center, I still think there's going to be a need to create some kind of smaller shuttle bus during rush hour to get people from the South Sammamish Park and Ride and the town center down to the new Redmond Transit Station that'll be at the end of the line when that opens. So I guess my feeling is we've had one city council that tried to stop all growth, and that's not going to happen. We need to have some growth. But now we have another one that wants to double it, and I just wish we could come up with a happy in-between. And I think there's a lot of residents that don't even know what's going on because we don't have a newspaper, don't have a good way to communicate what's happening. So I'd like to see a little more study with a little more involvement with the larger public. And just another point, one thing I would like to see as far as housing for myself, I'm looking at, I'll be 75 this year. I'm in a tri-level right now. I would love to have a one-story clustered kind of home situation with several other homes in that cluster. No lawn, no big front yard, a common area in the back, and a shared green space for raised bed gardening where I can do it standing up. So that's my dream. I don't see it anywhere in the plans, but that's what I'd like to see. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jan.
I see no other public commenters. Thank you very much.
And thank you. So now we will go to I'm looking for a motion for the consent calendar, please. To approve.
I motion to approve the consent calendar.
It's been moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No opposition. Motion carries. Thank you. So now we move to presentations, public hearings. So the first public hearing that we'll be discussing is the second amended and restated development agreement for Brownstones West and Brownstones East. We have David, Matt, Joseph, Peter, and another Matt.
Mayor, if I may, just a reminder, as part of this, that this is a continuation of the public hearing.
Right. I'm
from-
sorry, I should have said that.
from
This
the-
is a continuation of the public hearing that we previously opened. So we'll be getting an updated information that's a continuation from what we learned before. We'll have an opportunity to ask clarifying questions and move on.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor, Council. David Pyle, Department of Community Development. And as was stated, I have others here with me this evening. We will be delivering a short presentation, followed by opportunity for question from Council, and then a continuation of the hearing and a possible deliberation and motion. As we get started, we just wanted to make sure to highlight for the Council and for the community some of the ongoing town center efforts that we have. As these can be kind of confusing at times, there's quite a bit of work going on here in the city, and just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we do have several pending actions related to our implementation of the town center plan and code with development permitting. We are also looking at, so one of those actions actually follows this item tonight, the right-of-way vacation proposal, which is a relocation of an unusable strip of right-of-way that follows this item on the agenda. We have the Town Center Plan and Code Amendment Project, where we just recently wrapped up the SEIS Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement scoping comment period that closed on January 29th. We'll be coming back to this council on February 18th for a presentation on the scoping effort and a review of the current scope, proposed scope, and get feedback from the council on that, followed by taking that to the Planning Commission on February 20th. Both great opportunities for the public to be involved and learn more about that effort. We're not planning to add a lot of growth to the city, so to speak. We're really looking for ways to increase the delivery of diverse and affordable housing. So in order to do that, we have to review the plan and better understand the dynamics of what is feasible and not feasible in the town center. So we're really looking for community feedback on that. We're thankful for everyone who's provided comment on that during the comment period. Got a lot of really great comment, and we're looking forward to going over that with you and getting feedback from you all. We do have continued development permitting under the existing plan and code that is in place. The Brownstones West and Brownstones East projects, which are the topic of tonight's development agreement amendment, are under construction. I should say Brownstones East is almost under construction. We do also have under entitlement the UZDP that was issued for Block 9 just recently, and the Southwest Quadrant was also issued last year. And these we're also pending commercial site development permit applications for blocks 5, 6, 7, and 9. We have a map here in a few minutes. You'll see that to kind of connect those blocks to a geographic place. We're also looking at different concepts for a civic square on the Notch property with possible expansion onto Block 8, depending on how things play out and ultimately how the council wants to see the town center built out. Those are going to be some important decision points. We're also looking at early concepts for development on surrounding blocks. Part of what's going on in the town center is property owners and potential developers are looking at what might become of our town center plan if we are to amend it. And I think most importantly, one of the things we are very focused on now and going forward is on partnerships and collaboration. And I think that it plays out through things like this development agreement that you're considering this evening, and that those are really essential to ultimately implementing the existing plan and existing adopted code. So again, the agenda for this evening is a brief presentation. There'll be opportunity for questions of staff and STCA or BSW, continuation of the public hearing from January 21st, close the public hearing and deliberate, and then consider making a motion. Before we get started with the majority of the presentation, we just wanted to take a second and highlight what the actual action was that's under consideration by the council. And I'm not big on reading slides, but I think this one is worth reading, and there'll be a few others we're going to want to read here with this presentation. Is the proposed amendment to the development agreement would effectively move the center of the new Southeast 6th Street right-of-way to the existing property line between the Park and Brownstones projects, Brownstones West and Brownstones East, creating a single new street segment. The city would build the southern portion, and STCA and BSW would build the northern portion. The city portion is already approved in the 2024 TIP and funded in the 2025-2026 budget. So as we start to dig into this, it's important to understand the background and context of the Town Center Plan. Just want to remind everyone that the Town Center Plan was adopted in 2008 and has been in place since that time. The implementing development regulations that are in place today were adopted in late 2010 and early 2011 and are currently codified under Chapter 2107 of the Sammamish Municipal Code. These are existing regulations. This is an existing plan. Development is allowed under these regulations. The city is implementing the plan that was adopted in 2008. There's quite a bit of information available on the city's website about the town center. It's pretty easy to find. You could either Google Sammamish Town Center, and I'm pretty sure it'll take you straight to the city's website, or you could type into your browser www.sammamish.us/projects/town-center, and that takes you straight to the city's website on the town center. I think it's also important to review some of the concepts in the town center plan that are really important and that led us down this path to getting to this point where we're considering a development agreement or amending a development agreement. First, the city's adopted 2008 town center plan states that partnerships are needed. I think this quote here is really important. It comes from page 7 of the town center plan. I won't read it, but the general gist of it is that the city needs to seek partnerships with developers that produce superior new development and meet both public and private objectives. The city's adopted 2008 town center plan states that public investment in infrastructure is essential. Again, that both public and private infrastructure investment is needed in order to achieve the town center plan objectives. The city's adopted 2008 town center plan seeks to advance cohesive design that activates parks. The town center plan seeks to fully integrate and synergistically complement public parks as it relates to the proposed development in the town center. And this comes straight from the town center plan. the city's hearing examiner found that agreement is necessary and important. Both parties must recognize that some give and take is inevitable, and that both parties need to recognize that a right amount of investment is essential in order for the town center to be successful. Just a little bit of background on town center ownership. When the town center plan was put in place, the zoning roughly aligned with the property ownership and property boundaries at the time. Since that time, there have been assemblages that have been created, and there is a larger assemblage of ownership on the western side of town center. You can see the area that is, I guess, in a dark blue, I would call it, that is STCA and STCA JV1 owned. It's also important to remember what development projects have been brought forward so far. You can see here on the left that this is an oblique aerial that shows I guess, 3 primary projects that have been brought forward. It's important to note that none of these projects required the deployment of significant infrastructure. All of these projects were essentially able to develop on their own as an island. That is one of the reasons why these projects move forward more quickly, because they did not require the very complicated and challenging task of collaborating to build infrastructure. You can see here on the right where the southwest quadrant is taking shape. I do note that the school that is shown on this is from a past drawing that's up above Crusader Way, and that is no longer moving forward. I just didn't have a chance to remove it from the image, so I apologize for that. Now we get into the southwest quadrant concept map. Blocks 1 and 2, so these little circles with a number in them denote the blocks. Blocks 1 and 2 are Brownstones West. Blocks 3 and 4 are Brownstones East. Blocks 5, 6, and 7 are the southwest quadrant UZDP areas. Block 9 is another mixed-use building with residential and commercial. And Block 8 is to be determined, as is Block 10 and 12 and 11 and 13. I think one of the points to take away here is that this is the current design that results from the, at least for blocks 1, 2, 3, and 4, that results from the current development agreement that's in place. We did a great job converting the previously proposed 223rd into a open space that, instead of a street in between blocks 1 and 3 and blocks 2 and 4, now we have an open space with a trail. But if you were a pedestrian coming down that trail heading south, you would encounter at the new 6th that you first would have to cross that street there. Then there would be a momentary period where you're on another sidewalk, and then you would again have to cross a 2-lane drive aisle in a parking lot and 90-degree parking before you would finally end up in the Lower Sammamish Commons Park trail area. And so if you think about this and you think about the full section of that area, it basically is the southern line of blocks 2 or 4, Brownstones West or Brownstones East. Then you'd have a landscape strip, then you'd have a sidewalk, then you'd have a curb, then you'd have parallel parking, then you'd have 2 travel lanes, then you'd have parallel parking, then you'd have a curb and a sidewalk, then there'd be a brief grass strip with a chain link fence and a bank that comes down into 2 travel lanes in a parking lot and 90-degree parking, and then wheel stops before you finally make it into the park. And this is generally seen as an undesirable condition, and we have, since the beginning of these concepts, been working on alternatives in order to implement the plan. And there are other design concepts out there that have been considered, and this just happens to be the one that has made it through all the steps in the process to get to this final point of implementation, including the TIP adoption, including the budget adoption. So this outlines, again, as a reminder that this is approved in the TIP. It is approved in the 2025-2026 budget. This is what the original design looked like. You can see 223rd was a street. You can see the blue areas marking where the stormwater vaults would go. There were several. Those are not shown also in Brownstones East yet because that project was not mature enough at that point to be included in this drawing. However, fortunately, those all the stormwater vaults were moved to the blue area here into one consolidated regional vault, and the 223rd proposed street was converted to an open space with a trail. So you could go from this, the original proposed design, to this here, and that was the first development agreement that was approved in December of 2022. You do also note that the Lower Sammamish Commons parking lot was reconfigured as part of this. The entrance that was previously shown to the southwest corner here down to the lower left, you could see how there were two entrances stacked up against each other. In order to correct that, there were two new driveways added connecting to 6th, and the existing entrance was closed. The next amendment, or I guess the first amendment to the development agreement was made in January of 2024, and this was really focused on that row of homes that front to 22nd. You can see under the previous proposal, those were freestanding single-family homes, and what changed was those turned into townhomes. The height was lowered, the design was improved, and generally this is seen as a far better product in our continued quest to try and build a better product for this community of Sammamish. Just looking a little more closely again at how the configuration of Southeast 6th Street and the Lower Sammamish Commons Park entrance and parking lot looks under the current approved development agreement. And then we could take a look at what is proposed to be modified through the development agreement. It is clouded in red. And the reason it only shows that section to the north half of Southeast 6th Street, if you will, is because that is the developer's portion that they would build. And that is what this development agreement achieves. Now, if you look a little closer, you could see that we're starting to narrow the lane in the street. We're bringing the path that is down 223rd, which is now an open space, down closer to the park so that the distance that a pedestrian would have to travel is shortened. You can see now how that marries up to the city's half, which is approved through the city's transportation improvement plan, the TIP, as well as funded through the city's 25 and 26 budget. So again, this is what the actual development agreement achieves. This is what the development agreement plus the city's TIP and budget achieves. What are the public benefits? Well, the moment is now. Development is underway. This time period could slip pretty quickly as we continue to see Brownstones West and Brownstones East advance in construction. This moment won't always be in front of us. We are looking to build a cohesive legacy design versus what I said previously as an island approach. One of the interesting things that I observed here when I first came to work here in 2014 was that we had lots of roads to nowhere, and we had lots of roads that were piggybacking on top of other roads that really didn't make sense. And we're really trying to avoid those situations where we build something and then later question why we built it and want to change it. So we're really trying to make sure that the design we put in place now is the right design going forward for the future. It becomes a part of instead of apart from the town center. Many of the comments I've heard are continuing to focus on the fact that the park is apart from the town center. And we're really trying to make the park a part of the town center. And that is one of the goals with this design objective, is to try and integrate the two. It consolidates the right-of-way as was previously described. It corrects a less functional design. It reduces potential conflicts of motorized and non-motorized movements. A big one for us is the opportunity cost, is if we don't do this now, what is the cost of doing it later? It also provides future compatibility to the broader vision for the town center. If you go back and look at the project that was approved as part of the TIP, there are 3 phases. This is the first phase. The other 2 phases include crossing underneath Block 8 and potentially crossing under the Notch property and crossing over under Block 9. That connectivity is something that would be extremely valuable as the road network and grid builds out. It doesn't mean that it has to be a arterial crossing under there. It can be a neighborhood street with lots of multi-use purposes that could be closed during events and could be leveraged for the best optimal circulation in the town center. The design also provides a large sidewalk along the northern edge of the Sammamish Commons Park, where I think the community would be kind of, if you take a look at what's currently here on this drawing, back here, would be a little bit confused about which sidewalk or which throughway is actually the primary park pathway. You have essentially three pathways. You have the pathway on the north side of 6th, the pathway on the south side of 6th, and then the pathway on the south side of the parking lot, the park parking lot. So we're trying to consolidate those into one primary pathway. Going back down here again, and we're almost done here. Just a second. So with, again, the proposed action, just wanted to reiterate that really this is a very narrow amendment and restatement of the development agreement. It really is focused on this realignment of 6th, allowing the city's TIP project to marry up with the developer's side of that concept. With that, I will turn it over to STCA and BSW for a brief presentation, and then we'll return to my slides for the public hearing and the deliberation. Have you been promoted? Can we promote Peter? Thank you. These transitions are always fun, so thank you.
All right, thank you, David. Much appreciated, and thank you to the community for working with us over the last few months and years to make this a better project. We want to also thank staff for its tireless work as we work through the issues of this very important and large project. We appreciate everyone in the room raising public consciousness of the project and allowing for a public review process. And that includes, most of all, the City Council, who have some big decisions and important decisions to make, and we appreciate the time you have allotted us to be here. If you'll forgive us our certain redundancies that may come about here, please, as David did an excellent job of walking through our collaborative effort, we will proceed forward. Why is collaboration important? Well, the town center, in essence, is, you can just click through those. Thanks. So collaboration is important because we have to work together. There is an intersection of public and private interests that comes together here in the town center over and over again. And we also have to wait for the private timelines and the public timelines to work their way through the public process so that not only the substantive interests, but the timing is right and aligned. The only way to get an optimal street network, in our view, that was envisioned by the town center, is to work synergistically together, as is called for in the plan and what the hearing examiner said in his decision. And that's especially true where this road that we are talking about, Southeast 6, dissects public and private property. And I would like to reiterate on IRP's behalf that we have one chance to get this right. The trains leave the station in development, and we have to be very careful at this time to make sure that we put in our maximum effort so that we can create a project that is here and benefiting the city for decades to come. So just as a point of reference for anybody who wants to get a precise location here, we created this very simple map up 4th Street, down 222nd to the south, and the lower Sammamish Commons parking lot, where you will see a great deal of activity on Brownstones West, and even more importantly, the regional vault that is about 2/3 done and progressing very nicely. The weather has cooperated a bit until recently to allow us to stay on task. Yeah. So how did we get here? Years ago, 2019, we put in a application, and what you see up on the screen here and in front of you are the original applications. As we moved forward through that process, it went through quite a little journey. And what you see is what was proposed and then later approved. So I want to state right here unequivocally that we are not here to offload our costs. We are not here to increase the number of units, and we are not here to do what many might think developers would do. We are here because we recognize that this is a tremendous community asset, that every part connects to the next, and that we have to do our level best to make sure that the parts of the project work together so that it doesn't hinder the future growth, not only of the town center, but its usability and viability for the city and its citizens. So we're also here because we have another opportunity to live up to the town center standards, which the original application and its administrative journey really didn't allow us to do. And we will try to meet our company standards and the city's standards by working together with the city to move Southeast 6th into a cohesive design. And with that background in mind, we turn to the original application and its component parts. So you can see there were multiple stormwater vaults that were approved. The streets that were planned were 223rd and 5th and 6th. We had 28 townhomes and 10 single-family homes in Brownstones West and 48 townhomes in Brownstones East. So then came the next development, or the first development agreement, and what did we do? And David did a really good job of going through that, so we'll go through it quickly. We replaced 223rd Avenue Southeast with a park, thereby eliminating enormous amounts of unnecessary impervious surface with open space and promoting livability and viability of the project. We better aligned Southeast 6th and created additional entrances into the park. Keep going. Yep. Yeah. And then we changed 10 single-family homes into 10 townhomes. Very important because it lowered the price point of those 10 single-family homes to 10 townhouse price points, and we did not increase the number of units. We then consolidated 7 stormwater vaults into one regional stormwater solution with the highest level 3 stormwater protection. So why are we here today? And David again did a wonderful job of talking about what we're trying to achieve. And we're here tonight because we have some results of the additional collaboration that we did. So now that the city's transportation planning has progressed, we can create that optimal road system by integrating Southeast 6th and the current drive aisle. This would be a system where pedestrians can access the park more safely by not having to cross both Southeast 6th and the park drive aisle, as David mentioned. And then this critical location will serve as an example where the more passive Lower Sammamish Commons Park meets the more active town center itself, thereby creating a seamless edge between the park and the town center. All right. So why is that integration important? So in the slide in front of you, you can see that it improves access for not only the reasons that David mentioned, but also that the drivers have much less to think about when they're getting in and out of the park, which is very important. We also reduce the amount of impervious again, including pollution generating areas. So it's better for the environment. And finally, the proposal provides more complete streets with a new sidewalk and creates enhanced connectivity between the activity zones, which will later be connected to the rest of the town center and the city through its trail network and road network. We thank you again for the opportunity to be here, and we look forward to answering your questions. I'll turn it back to David.
Thank you, Matt. Bear with me while I transition back to screen share. There it is. Great. And go ahead and move forward. So with that, we turn it back over to you, Mayor, to continue with this evening's proceeding. If you have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them. And then the next step would be to continue the public hearing from January 21st. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have clarifying questions they would like to ask at this time? Councilmember Gupta.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to staff for answering my questions ahead of time. In our packet, it mentions under public benefit the opportunity cost. There are eventual improvements that will be required in the park parking lot and drive aisle, which will include required updates to stormwater and other regulations. Would you mind walking us through what that would look like under the, that's 39. Yeah. Would you mind walking us through what that would look like under the current proposal?
So if I understand the question correctly, there are basically, if we didn't move forward with this, we would over time need to make upgrades to the park parking lot. But if we do move forward with this, those upgrades will be made now, and we will then, and will be consolidated into the road system, and any future maintenance would become part of the road, the right of way, if you will, right? So currently, if the development were to proceed as is permitted and as is approved under the current development agreement that's already in effect, we would have 6th Street, which would have sidewalk, parallel parking, travel lane, parallel parking, sidewalk. That would all be dedicated by the developer upon completion. It would become public right-of-way. The city would then become responsible for maintenance of that street area. In addition to that, we would also, that would be through the Public Works Department. In addition to that, we would retain the park parking lot, which we would be responsible to maintain through the Parks Department, through their maintenance budget. So we have a different budget line item maintaining the parking lot than the right-of-way. And over time, as the asphalt degrades, and it's hard to say how quickly that asphalt would degrade. It really depends on the quality of the original improvement that was made and the wear and tear on it. However, asphalt does over time degrade and needs to be resurfaced or needs to be replaced, at which time stormwater improvements are triggered depending on the action. There are some levels of maintenance that don't require stormwater improvements. There are other levels of maintenance that go a little deeper, if you will, that do require stormwater improvements. And the other question then becomes is, at a later date, are we going to realize that we want to improve the functionality and connection of the park to this new open space, to the town center, in order to cross-connect things better? And are we then going to want to try to integrate it into that road at that point in time? That, in my mind and experience, would be a logical progression if we were to leave it the way it is now. However, it's not a guarantee that that would happen, right? So I guess to directly answer the question, the opportunity cost comes with the ability to consolidate and simplify, whereas if we don't, we are left with a condition that requires maintenance of the street, maintenance of the park parking lot.
Okay, thank you. That is very helpful. And so the concern would be that if we leave it as it is, if we go as is currently permitted, when the road needs to be maintained, we would have to trigger upgrades to the park portion of the road, which would then be a cost to the city. and potentially a greater cost than right now because of construction inflation.
Yeah, so what I guess the way I would put it is the road would be built as it is today. It'd be an incomplete street, right? What you're getting on 6th is not a full section. You're getting basically what they call a half street with a sidewalk on the south side. There are 2 travel lanes, and it does function. However, it's not the full cross section that we typically like to see built out. So when the park was to go and maintain in the parking lot, there would be maintenance required for the actual park parking lot. It wouldn't necessarily trigger improvements to the street unless we wanted to make those improvements at the time, right? I think what we're saying is that it's a condition that is perpetuated to a point where we later identify the fact that we really need to change it. And that's the opportunity cost, is that we're not making that change now. In addition to that, I've not seen things get cheaper. So if we did in a future date want to widen 6 to add this type of functionality to it, it likely would cost more. It's just an experience I've had.
I can add on to Director Piles a little bit. Sorry, surround sound tonight. Just to add on to that a little bit. So the proposed DA does have a half street improvement. It's somewhat similar to what the entrance out here is. Those are temporary conditions and not ideal for the long term for the city. And what we do want to see over time is a full street improvement, which is what is proposed before you tonight. That is meant to have for the duration. In terms of the road lifespan, it depends on a whole lot of factors. We're going to get into all of those later this year with our pavement management condition assessment. You're all going to become experts on pavement. But typically you could plan on 15 to 20 years, but there's a lot, that assumes a lot of preservation techniques, right? But there's a lot of things that fall into that in terms of volume and what the road is built of and the subgrade and all those different things that come into play.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to check in with Councilmember Stewart in case she had a question. Just in case? Nope, we're good. Any other questions? Any other clarifying questions? Councilmember Treen.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so I would just say my concerns are regarding the process. So let me see if you can help me out on this. So I'm concerned that the city is piecemealing together decisions related to the town center, and the brownstones are just one example of that. The original Brownstone West Development Agreement was adopted in December of 2022, as stated, and the public benefits were to be a conversion of 223rd Avenue Southeast to an open space park. Would you be so kind enough to show us that on your map? I know, it's all right. Okay. And then there was also the realignment of Southeast 6th Street with 2 new access points to the lower Sammamish Common Park. Was there discussion at that time of the city's obligation to pay for this realignment at that time in December of 2022?
That concept was not something that had been brought forward to this level of maturity and was not something that was under proposal at that point in time.
Okay. And then can you do me a favor and just show me the alignment that is present for the second? That's the original one. So the second one? Yeah, so this is the second one, right?
This is the amendment that is currently under consideration.
No,
by
I need the
council.
second.
So
when we amended it, we were going to,
so yeah, just a second, I'll back up here. So this was the first one, right?
no, that's the second one.
And then this is the second one. This is the original right here.
How come it has the vault where it is? So the first, okay, that's close enough because I get what you're saying. All right. So then that's the original agreement of December. So now the second one.
This is the first revision.
That's the first revision, and we get the 2, and that shows the 2 access points.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. And then construction of a regional storm facility. So my question is, how is currently designed stormwater facilities, can you define regional for me?
It's defined in the plan. I'd have to look it up, but it is defined in text in the plan.
So in my opinion, the word regional implies benefits to the entire town center, at least the potential benefit to properties beyond the town center. Instead, I think what we're simply directing our stormwater into existing wetlands that ultimately impact Ebright Creek. Is that true, Audrey?
Councilmember, do you have a clarifying question?
Yeah, that is a clarifying question on the stormwater and regional facilities that we're proposing here. I mean,
I need to look at the downstream pathway, but all the proposed facilities that are in the currently approved development agreement have to follow all of ecologies that are King County manual regulations, include where they discharge to, both the threshold discharge areas as well as their natural locations.
so what's the impact on Ebright Creek?
Typically, when you see development come in, it actually improves things. We completed our study, our hydraulic study that we completed a year or two ago, and showed that as development occurs in some of these subbasins, it will improve the water quality. Much of what has happened now is under old water quality standards or developments where there may not have been standards in place and are certainly not comparable to the standards we have in place today.
All right. So then based on what I'm hearing, then we should be revisiting in the town center comprehensive plan as an adequate definition for regional stormwater, and do further analysis as needed to truly understand and determine the impact of the planned stormwater facility that's being proposed tonight.
Councilmember Trina, if I may, just to clarify so that I understand, my understanding, and correct me, David and Audrey, if I'm wrong, this amendment to the current DA doesn't change the stormwater vault or the stormwater plan at all. That part is not changing. It's just moving the right-of-way line down to the midline or the property line in between the park and the development.
Okay, I don't disagree with that, but what I'm trying to get to here is that anytime that you do a road project, that stormwater has to be addressed. So where's all this water going? Is it going? So if it goes into the vault, then too, have we done a study on the impact of the environment, or what's going to happen with that water? And I'm going to guess it's headed down into downstream or downland. So there's laws that protect the property rights of the people who are below these vaults, which one of them happens to be the city of Sammamish.
So every project that comes through is required to undertake a drainage review. Sorry. I need to step out and grab water. The city follows the same processes that a private developer would. So we have to go through the same thing. So that we would have to go through and review our.
Audrey, hang on for a glass of water.
Thank you.
Okay, because you're dragging us through it.
Okay, sorry about that. So our CIP project would undertake the same level of drainage review that any development project would. So as that project moves forward with design, we would do a downstream analysis just like any other project that would go through. It goes through that we follow the same manual that an applicant would, and we are bound by the same requirements. So we would have to do our own due diligence and look at potentially downstream complaints and such like that. Usually, as part of any project that comes in, we have an opportunity to take a look at capacity in existing systems. And so there may be we may be able to utilize the existing vault, which we already will be maintaining for the road. We've already run some high-level numbers with that. But regardless of our high-level numbers and our planning, we still have to do our homework and show that through design phase of the project.
So on the addition in the change to the single family to the townhomes, was there also analysis done on that impact on the stormwater?
Hi, my name's Peter Brennan. I can jump in here. On the way we modeled all the for any of the lots for Brownstones West or East, we modeled it as the full development area. So if you look at the graphic in front of you, the yellow identifies the complete boundary that we would be able to put a structure on. So we just modeled that as 100% impervious so that we would be covered. And so that was then what was factored in to size the vault correctly for our project.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, in addition to streets and the vault with the consolidation addresses the water for Brownstones West, Brownstones East, and then it goes into future projects, which would be the adjacent Block 8 and Blocks 5 and 6, and the roads associated with that.
So the one you're building, the one you're digging the hole for right now,
Yeah.
that's also going to take 5 and 6?
Yeah, it's huge. It's a massive vault that we modeled it so that it would take, basically, if you come down, but between 6 and 7, it doesn't handle that street. That's kind of the dividing line. So it handles west of 6th and west, and then it handles Block 8 and west.
So there's a concept of what's called threshold discharge areas. It's like mini watershed basins, if you're familiar with those. And the way the stormwater manual works, and I'm not a technician, I'm a layperson when it comes to stormwater manuals. And the way the manual works is that it requires that developers and engineers consider the natural discharge path of that threshold discharge area and make sure that that water is continued to be directed to that point of discharge. You can't redirect water to other points in a watershed basin through a stormwater system. So what they have to do is they have to show where the break line is, where the water is flowing this way down 222nd versus this way, which is down towards the Chickman property and into Block 13. And they have to show that their stormwater vault is able to collect all of the water that's impervious, has to treat the pollution generating impervious, and then it has to store all that water after it's been treated, or if it's not pollution generating, store it directly. And they have to model that to pre-development condition under the manual, which basically means that you're going back in time and you're providing for better stormwater control than what is currently out there today, given that there's a history of farming, a history of activity, there's compaction, there's been soil disruptions, and all of that change happened long before the town center was put in place. So what's happening here is they're actually improving the stormwater condition, at least according to the manual and the engineering. I mean, I'm not out there measuring by cup how much water is coming out of it, but that is the theory. And my understanding is Public Works did a study about the application of the stormwater manual to the town center and ultimately what the result is, and if it results in an improvement. And that's what I think Audrey was speaking to, is that we did that study.
Correct. And that confirmed that actually development, as it's brought in to different areas in town center, would improve the water quality. Because we can do things like control the flow, which is a different core requirement in our manual, as well as treat the water that's coming in. And as you know, the standards only become more stringent every permit cycle. So the water quality will improve.
So I also want to add for the record, Matt found it, thank you, Matt. On page 68 of the town center plan is the definition of regional stormwater facility or regional stormwater system. And it is defined as a regional system is one that treats stormwater from 2 or more properties and often has the advantage of greater efficiency, control, and ease of maintenance. In this case, this type of system.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring forward to our council that we need to go in and look at the town center comprehensive plan and change that definition so that it becomes an adequate, the residents benefit from this instead of the developer. Moving on then about the process, so we're at the second amendment of the Brownstones West agreement before us. And rather than having included the preferred 6th Street design when it was included in the original development agreement, we are now asked to approve a new alignment spend millions of dollars on a road improvement that primarily benefits the town center development. I want to note that we wanted to increase our taxpayers' property tax by $6 million. We'd be required to have a vote. But tonight, this city council is going to commit to spending those funds on a very short stretch of road that has very little public benefit.
There a clarifying
In
question
fact,
in
it may
here.
actually be creating a safety hazard where traffic, yes, I'm about to get there. And
If we deliberate right after. Okay, sounds like deliberation, so if you've got a question, that'd be great.
Okay. So what I'd like to know then is that how does this new design benefit and create safety instead of hazards due to the traffic patterns that you guys are creating here with? And I got one more question after that.
So what it does is it eliminates these two entrance points here that are circled in red, and it also provides a more direct connection for pedestrians to get from the newly created open space that was 223rd, and it directly routes people into the park, providing for a shorter, simplified connection. It also provides clarity around the sidewalk network, allows for placemaking to occur, and allows for route finding, what's the right term for it? Wayfinding to be simplified in this area. Thank you.
So, and then speaking kind of to piggyback onto the top of that, because it's going to be more convenient and beneficial to the residents. But I'll avoid the safety part of this for now. But is it true that this new proposal that's being brought before us, that we would actually lose a net zero of, or a net of negative 13 parking spaces?
I think that physical defined parking space is correct. However, we also need to consider the operation of the park, given that the park is open from basically, I want to say 7 a.m. until 8 until dusk, and that those parking spaces are then not available for the balance of time. So as we continue to see the town center built out, that wanting to provide that parking 24 hours a day, there's always the constant component of managing parking, but this and from my perspective is addition by subtraction. So you might lose 13 parking spaces. I'm not going to deny that. I think that is a great comment. However, when you start to look at opening up all of those parking spaces that would have been restricted in the park, the balance of parking 24 hours a day is significantly increased.
So then the benefit to the community is a negative. Because not only that, I don't get to, if I show up at the park at 8 o'clock in the morning and someone else is already there, I don't have the ability to park at the park and go for my jog or go for my walk.
It depends on the perspective.
Well, my perspective would be that it was a loss. That's not a benefit to the community. All right, that's my last question. Thanks.
So, in continuing the public hearing.
Hold on, I see Councilmember Stewart has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to be good about that. Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I didn't have a question before, but my question is this: just looking at the road network, what kind of traffic do we expect on Southeast 6? It appears to me that it would mostly be the park traffic, which would probably be coming through there in either design, and really only the residences in these 2 blocks. Like, we're not really anticipating a whole lot of through traffic, are we? And I know you guys would have done modeling to understand that.
Yeah, Councilmember Stewart, you are accurate. It would mostly be used for access to the park and to those brownstones communities. If you see where Southeast 6th Street joins 224th Place or 224th Avenue, that's a T intersection, so there's no through road going further east. That, I believe, is a consideration for future town center projects and a potential to continue to go through. which is another item that Director Pyle brought up of how this aligns with, potentially the future of Town Center, and allows us to maybe even continue that road through.
And again, we want to move the roadway further south so that we get a straight shot, considering those future plans. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, council? If not, then can I move to close or do I?
I think you were going to just, if there's, open up the hearing portion.
Okay. I'll open up the hearing portion and see if there's public comment in the room. I thought I'd actually opened this before. Didn't I open this? Last week. I'm continuing. Thank you. Right. Terrific. Thank you very much. We'll start with comments in the room, and we'll continue. So if Debbie Treen could come up, please.
And representatives from the town center. I had something written out, and after hearing the conversations that's taken place so far, I have maybe to modify what I was going to say, so I'll try to be clear. Let's talk about the safety issue first and the transportation contribution that this road makes to our network. What I object to is piecemealing the decisions on every single parcel of the town center. This is the most important development in the city. I'm not against the town center, but I am against piecemealing our decisions. We started with a development agreement that acknowledged something might happen with that road, and the council agreed. Then we went to a TIP that said, hey, we're going to put $6 million in here to build that road. Still no idea what's being built. Then when this hearing was first brought up in the first meeting, several council members asked questions as if they didn't even know what this was. I'm just getting tired of the city not managing this project in a way that catches these kinds of issues up front so the public can come along. There's a very narrow group of people who seem to be in the know about what's happening at the town center. And the rest of us, and I'm married to a council member for crying out loud, are left in the dark and blindsided. And I'm just really getting tired of it. That is the bottom line. This project, the 6th Street, is not going to end just under the brownstones. It's going to continue to the east, and the developers know that, and the city knows it. They're just not willing to put that on paper yet. And it's not appropriate. We need a transportation plan in the town center that lays out what do we need? What do we need to build in terms of roads that will accommodate the needs of these developments? Otherwise, we're going to continue to piecemeal our city. Every road in this city has been designed by a developer. It's why we have 750 cul-de-sacs. This is ridiculous. The city needs to get its act together and do an actual complete transportation plan for the whole, whatever it is, 200 plus acres. I'm so frustrated with the way this process works. I would also suggest that you consider establishing a citizen advisory committee to participate with the staff and the developers so we have more input than just oh yeah, I want to live in a condo in the town center. There are other opinions in this community and they are being ignored. I hope that you will listen to us tonight and not take action on this until we have an actual plan for the whole road network. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise?
Good evening, everyone. Denise Steele Darnell. Do I need to give my address or we're good? Okay. So thank you for sharing everything. I haven't been able to be here for a while because, like many of us, we're all very busy with our own jobs and everything, but I did want to get back to addressing the council, and I agree with Debbie. I'd also like to expand that a little bit more, that representing a lot of people that I happen to be lucky enough to know in Sammamish, this really does need to be postponed so you can continue sharing or start sharing more with our community. I know I was at all the open houses that you had in the past, but this was not brought up to people. I think the citizens deserve to know that we're talking about $6 million more. And I think with the cyclone, with the LA fires, a lot of people are worried about if there is an emergency, how we all get down, and also the services that we need. Is everyone really going to be okay with $6 million being spent on this instead of maybe fire or police or an evacuation plan? I love Debbie's idea about having a citizen advisory. I know it's very hard to get people to come to these meetings, and you do advertise that, but it would be lovely to have an advisory where we could maybe have people from different parts of the city that could come and be part of a community meeting so we get more involvement. I'm also going to say again, I really feel the newsletter should be more than just the city staff writing very nice articles, but it needs to be connected to our community, where we put something in there, where those lovely girls that were here in the beginning, the young women that talked about peer pressure, they could do an op-ed article. We could put a survey link in the newsletter to ask citizens how they feel about this. So I agree with Debbie, this should not be these big decisions being made by a small group, including us, that are here at these meetings. And I know many of you probably got a letter from Wally Pereira, who I really admire for all the work he's done to protect the salmon. And I just want to share a little paragraph from the letter for those of you who didn't have a chance to read it yet. This TC expansion will add impacts to Ebright Creek and our Kokanee. I expect that within the next couple of years, this development in the Ebright watershed will result in periodic winter closures to 212 due to flooding. Along with that will be increased flooding in Ebright Creek, together with slides in the canyon and major impacts to property. Kokanee spawning in Ebright Creek obviously will be heavily impacted. There could very well be a major impact to the parkway, which happened in the 80s from the flooding of George Davis Creek. I don't think this is an exaggeration of what to expect in the next 5 to 10 years. So he also states all the trees have died in that wetland and are a standing testimonial to development runoff impacts over the years, despite what promises are to the contrary. Thanks for letting me finish. Okay, thank you for listening.
We'll go to public comment online. If there's no more public comment in the room.
Those who had pre-registered today, if you would like to provide comment, please raise your hand online. Mary Wichter.
Hi, this is Mary Wichter. Been in Sammamish 24 years. First, I wanted to say thank you for the terrific presentations and explanations, both by city staff and the developer. I thought they really illuminated what's going on with the better designs and placement in the land areas and for the most appropriate uses. Just with regard to stormwater, I believe everything that was said was correct. Because it's farmland and it's been cleared in the past, that's one of the reasons I think you're having the flooding. But with the design, they have to have the vaults that will detain the water and let it out more slowly, so it will actually help. And then they did have 7 stormwater vaults, and because they did regional stormwater, they do have multiple places that are going into that. Also for regional stormwater, there will need to be partnering and collaboration, as Director Pyle brought up, because you're not always going to be able to put it in a specific location, and you might need to be able to work outside of that. So the combined stormwater assets are also less costly, and they have cleaner stormwater, and there's better continuous pedestrian connectivity. I've driven in that parking lot before, and I think what they're designing is really good. And if you don't do it now, the opportunity will be lost, and it gives you the opportunity, I believe, also to connect to 226 in the future. So the time to do it is actually now for this part, and if you want to do wider planning, as other public people have suggested, that makes sense. And then the other things I noticed is you're saving about a 1/4 acre, maybe to a 1/2 acre of paving and concrete with the regional stormwater. So again, kudos to the city and to the developer for working together on this. And the realignment of the city provides better vehicle and pedestrian access, overall neighborhood circulation. It integrates the Lower Sammamish Commons Park with Town Center neighborhood. Staff sees significant public benefits to this, as was written in the packet tonight, and it dovetails with the other things. You're getting better use and design, parking spaces that are at angles which work better, and non-restricted hours for the public. The realignment is needed now to provide reduced maintenance and staffing for the city, along with the opportunity for the potential extension, as I've mentioned, to 226, which I feel is a very key aspect. So approve, use this opportunity now. There's less cost for parking lot, drive aisles, stormwater, and other regulations, plus it avoids more construction projects. And on the trees, Brownstone is doing the retention. They're also doing 8-to-1 retention on just 7 trees if they need to remove those, and they're trying to only just do 3. So I hope that you will talk about this tonight and decide to go ahead, because the time is now to make these changes. They've been very well thought out, and it's a really improved product. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Are there any additional callers?
I see no other commenters. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close this hearing, and now I'll open it up for deliberation and a potential motion. So, council members, now is the time to deliberate. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Who'd like to start?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Unless I've done something wrong.
It's okay, just a point of procedure. Usually there's a motion and a second on the table.
To close the...
No, then to engage in deliberation of the motion on the table.
Is there a motion?
Is there
a
yeah, I was just going to
Okay,
say, yeah.
We've got it right here. Okay.
I motion to approve the second amended and restated development agreement with BSW LLC for Brownstones West and STCA LCA for Brownstones East. Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Excuse me, Mayor, again. The motion that is before you needs to include passage of the resolution. And the reason that's important is because that's a requirement of state law. Thank you.
You're going to restate that?
I will restate that again. I move to pass resolution number R 2025-1093, presented as Exhibit 1 in this evening's agenda bill, approving the second amended and restated City of Sammamish Development Agreement, including the realignment of Southeast 6th Street and Brownstones West open space in the Lower Sammamish Commons Park entrance and frontage, and regional stormwater facilities with STCA LLC and BSW LLC, and authorizing the city manager to sign on the city's behalf.
Second. It has been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Getting coordinated here. I appreciate the presentation this evening. I appreciate bringing us along on this journey and all the amendments that have preceded. It definitely helps me understand where we're at today. I see this as a collaboration, and I see each amendment improving the product. And as you said, David, our goal is to have the best product possible. I see that we have a park now between Brownstones East and West, which is a huge public benefit. I see town homes, whereas before we had single family homes. And as you know, we are, that's the goal, to have more different types of units and to lower the price points whenever possible. So I see that collaboration. I understand there can be some frustration in the sense that seeing that we're making adjustments, but I tend to see making adjustments as a benefit, because that is, as you're working, that is a way to improve the product. You notice things can can be improved, and so you do that. Some of the things that I see as a public benefit for this amendment is that there's 4,000 square feet of sidewalks. I mean, I absolutely improve sidewalks for walkability. I understand that now that we won't have to navigate crossing Southeast 6 and, going through another street alignment, that one, it's safer, and we're decreasing the amount of impervious surface. That's 16,000 less impervious surface. The reduced maintenance cost is a plus. And regarding the parking spaces, we will have 119 spaces that are available 24/7, up from 97. So to me, that's a public benefit as well. So I fully support this amendment. Thank you.
Councilmember, anyone else? Councilmember Gupta?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to echo everything that Deputy Mayor Lamb said, and also just highlight that under the proposed amendment, we're reducing the pollution-generating impervious surface by 15,600 square feet, which is, I think, like a third of an acre. If we're concerned about stormwater runoff, that seems like a pretty big public benefit if we're putting less asphalt on the ground. And yeah, we're netting 4,000 additional square foot of sidewalk. We're increasing pedestrian connectivity and safety. I walked to the council meeting tonight, so I'm very conscious of what it takes to be pedestrian safe. A lot of times when you cross, you think, how in the world did that get built? And I'm sure we could make it work with the original plan, but if you compare the original plan with the proposed amendment, there's no comparison. One obviously works better as a pedestrian. Thank you.
Councilmember Treen?
Well, let's just be clear about one thing, since it's come up twice now, is that sidewalks would have been built anyway. So there's, that's a wash as far as I'm concerned, as far as a benefit to the community. If we're going to build a roadway, the sidewalks would have had to been built anyway. So besides my concerns for the whole process, let's just say, whereas we just adopted a comprehensive plan for 2025, whereas also during the previous year, we opened up the sub area for the town center comprehensive plan subsection. It seems to me that this process is just a way to I don't want to use railroad, but push forward this at a rate that makes it so that they can adopt this under the current town center plan. And so that benefits the developer for sure, because he could have actually been building something all along since we've had this plan in place since before 2010 or about 2010. The other thing is, we literally need to have, and I told STCA this at the very beginning, you have a very tough job to try to put together a cohesive development on these 120 acres. And you really haven't done the job. You haven't done the work to actually come forward with something that says, hey, here's what we really can do. And instead, whereas the city has built you 4th Street at a cost to the residents. So who does that benefit? You, the developer, at the taxpayer's expense. Now you're asking us again to come up with another $6 million to fix a problem that this is the solution. So why not, if it's only $6 million to the city, then if you're benefiting from it, then how come you're not paying for it? So it just leads me to say that this is totally for the town center development. And I stated earlier, if we wanted to increase the taxpayers' property tax by $6 million, we'd have to go to a vote. But tonight, this council is going to commit that spending to these funds on this short stretch of road for very little public benefit. It will benefit the people who are living in the town center, but it's not going to benefit the residents of Sammamish that come to the park. In fact, it may actually be creating a safety hazard where traffic, parking, pedestrian activity all come together in a poorly designed mix of parking for residents of the brownstones, park users, and people cutting through on the road to avoid the rest of the congestion in the town center. I provide this history and opinion to point out the City Council is being given piecemeal updates to the town center that continually benefit the developer with little benefit to the city. We are failing to protect the public interest if we continue to manage the town center project, the largest pending development in the city, in this piecemeal way. I would also point out that the road networks in Sammamish are clearly inadequate for the planned future development, even with sidewalks, bike lanes, and transit. Why are we in this predicament? Basically, we have historically built our roads based on what benefits the individual development or developer, not what aligns with a well-designed citywide transportation plan. That's why I voted against the TMP. We need to evaluate and design the entire town center transportation system in order to assess the appropriate design of 6th Street.
Sorry, there's point of order. State your point.
Yeah, we're just debating here a motion on the table for 6th Street, not the entire town center plan or the TMP.
Your point is well taken.
Well, I'd also point out then that the road network that we're actually approving here is not fit within the citywide transportation plan. I'd also submit that the construction of 6th Street is just another example of development driving road projects, and only this time the public will be paying for half the cost. I certainly expect that the opening of the Town Center Comprehensive Plan for review will result in revisiting a myriad of community concerns, including transportation, stormwater, open space, preservations of trees and natural areas, along with densifying and affordability. So I'll be voting against the Brownstone West Second Amendment to the Development Agreement, and I encourage the rest of you to join me. And once we have a full examination of the environmental impacts of the updated Town Center Comprehensive Plan that truly evaluates all the environmental impacts, the public benefits, then we'll see about the road alignment. Thank you.
So now it's my turn. Oh, sorry. It is not my turn. It's never my turn. Okay, I'm sorry.
You can have your turn, Mayor. It's fine.
All right. Councilmember Stewart, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say I completely agree with all of the benefits that this adjustment will bring. And at the same time, I am struggling with the cost to the city. And so my question, and I know Mr. City Manager that we had a brief email exchange, but I guess my question is, are there any other considerations we could make that could potentially reduce the city portion of the cost? Because it does feel like an awful lot of money for a fairly short stretch of road. And again, I don't want to say that it's a total deal breaker for me, but it does give me pause because of that price tag.
Thank you, Councilmember Stewart. Appreciate the question. I think anytime we go into a design, there's always opportunity to try to reduce costs in the final design. We haven't started our portion of the design yet, and so there is opportunity, obviously, as we go into that to try to reduce our costs as we winnow down options and get down to true cost. But we're not quite there yet. That number was the placeholder that we put in the budget based on a high-level estimate, just so that we could be transparent with council and the community when this was brought forward and as part of the TCIP process in, when was that? That was June of last year, and then again in the budget process during budget deliberations last fall. So there will be opportunities as we move forward, and as you might expect, we are always looking for ways to try to reduce costs and save money as we go into these projects, recognizing the broader positive benefits down the road. And so that's where things sit at the moment in terms of process.
Would it be possible just to get a quick sort of high level of, what some of the major components of that are? Because from a layperson's perspective, right, you could be like, hey, there's a big chunk of road already there. Aren't we just kind of redrawing the lines? And it's obviously not that simple. So is it possible to get just sort of a quick high level of what some of that $6 million is going to go to? Because the current agreement that's on the table doesn't come with that big price tag. So that is the part that gives me pause. I love the benefits. I love, as Councilmember Gupta knows, I love the idea of being more bike and pedestrian safe as well. And I think we definitely need to be doing more for that. But it does feel like an awful large sum of money for a very small stretch of roadway.
Apologies, Councilmember Stewart. I think we're talking possibly about two separate pieces. The $6 million that is in the TCIP is for the entire. There are 3 phases to that project, and we are only in the A phase, if you will, or the first 2-block segment, and that's actually a $2.5 million cost, and that reflects the developer, the proposal, they would spend the same amount on their half of that portion of roadway. And so the rest of those pieces are the continuation potential in the future for that connectivity that David was referring to in his presentation. So it's the opportunity, but that's not set in stone yet.
So fair enough, and my apologies. So could we just go over high level what the $2.5 million would be covering? Because I think in the original design, it would really only be those 2 connection points, and I don't believe those cost $2.5 million. So just trying to understand what that $2.5 million is covering there, since much of this is already some amount of pavement.
Sure, appreciate that. I'm going to ask Audrey to step in here, as this is not my necessary area of expertise. So, Public Works Director Audrey Sturzy.
Yeah, happy to jump in. Thank you, Scott. I also wanted to clarify that the $2.5 million is inclusive of both the 340, the Transportation Capital Fund, as well as the 438 Capital Fund. So it does cover 2 funds there. With road construction, that includes the full thing. So grading, sub-base, all the layers of the road. We simply can't just pave over what's out there. We've got to match the alignment with our partners so that it is a seamless road at the end of the day. There'll be some timing phasing that we'll work through, but there's also, as you get down to details, the striping, signs, crosswalk, we can talk through if we want a raised crosswalk at some points with flashers, the sidewalks, and any trees or street lighting, anything else that would typically come in with our public works standards.
Okay, so it's not just the existing pavement that's there can remain, but there will potentially be some major adjustments to that as we make it basically double in size on the developer side. Is that fair?
Correct. We'll need to make sure that we're meeting grade. So
Okay.
we can't build the road as is. We'll need to bring it up a little bit.
Great. And then you just addressed a lot of the safety concerns is that as we build these pedestrian crosswalks, we be able to put, a lot of safety precautions in there. I do have one other question. I'm sorry I didn't think of it earlier, but where do the bikes go? We talked about the sidewalks and we talked about the street, but what about the bikers?
I can jump in again. They can choose to travel with vehicles on this road. It is a short road and it's a local street, so the speed limits would be 25. They can also elect to jump onto the sidewalk. They will be wide sidewalks.
Okay, thank you.
Council, anyone else? If not, I'll just add my 2 cents into this equation. I appreciate the safety features that are going into this. I do believe this is a safer component. It's unfortunate that many people have never worked on big, massive projects like this, because then they'd understand how often there are change orders that come in, where you get a better idea because you get sparked by the creativity that happens when there's a partnership that's accretive and it's actually functional. So a lot of times it'll start off with you have a good idea and somebody else has a good idea, and to combine it's even a better idea. I appreciate the fact that we actually own half that street and need to pay for it. We own half the street. We have to pay for it. So there's that. And I like the way that this is informing the connectivity from the top of the park down to the base of the park. I do feel like that green spine is really being lived up to in a lot of ways here, and that it is not just an amenity for the people who are fortunate enough to be there. It is an amenity for the city. And I know it's really hard for people to wrap their heads around that, because if they don't live next door to it, they don't quite see it that way. But you will be using the park. you will be using the social retail there. You will be finding an opportunity to find your friends in that center of town to have that coffee, to buy that book, to buy that birthday present. That is a reality that is coming to us, which I'm excited about personally. So I also fully expect that as we progress, we're going to get more changes that will come to us. But what I'm been encouraged by is that they will be enhancements for the public benefit. And that's what I look forward to. At this point, if there are no more questions, we will be taking a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart, sorry.
I was wondering if I could have permission to leave early. I am in a different time zone, and it is very late where I am.
You have, we can, do I have to vote for that? No, just please go to bed. And give our
Okay.
best to Milo and best of luck to Milo.
Thank you very much, and I will watch the rest, which I think is all just informative, on the tape later. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Is Milo an audition?
What? I think, yeah, she's, they're doing, I think, auditions for drama schools, I think. So now with that, we're going to, we're opening a public hearing. We're going to open a public hearing to accept testimony on the potential vacation of a portion of the right-of-way at the southwest corner of Southeast 4th and 225th. And we have Joseph here and Audrey to walk us through it. And I will officially open the hearing. And thank you. Kick it off for us, please.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, I'm Audrey Starcy, losing my voice again. Public Works Director for the city. I'm joined by Joseph C. We are presenting a right-of-way vacation for your consideration. If you'll recall, we were in front of council in early January to set the resolution for this public hearing date. We are asking that council open and close the public hearing this evening and consider approval of the ordinance that would vacate the right-of-way. Joseph has a brief presentation for you, and then we're happy to answer any questions.
Good evening, Council. So if you recall, on January 7th of this year, the Council passed a resolution, Resolution 2025-1085, setting forth this public hearing today. It is for the vacation of a portion of right-of-way at the southwest corner of Southeast 4th Street and 225th Place Southeast. So if you recall, just based on a map, this is kind of where it is that area in red. If the key thing to take away from this map is that it doesn't align with the Southeast 4th Street Capital Improvement Project, the southern leg of the roundabout of 4th Street and 225th Place Southeast. So that's the vacation area right there. And there's the southern leg of that roundabout. So this next slide, if council recalls, this is just a quick, introduction to what a right-of-way vacation is. Key takeaway here is for a local government, for the city, to relinquish its interest in a public right-of-way. And it typically occurs when the city has really no planned future use, and it does not, and such a vacation does not adversely impact current or future public needs. So on this sort of vacation process flow chart, the previous step was when council set the public hearing. That was done in January 7th. We are currently here. So under the public hearing, hearing public comments, making a decision to approve, deny, or take some other action regarding the vacation. And if approved, there's an ordinance for that vacation. So just really briefly, again, why is this vacation required? So there was a 2021 hearing examiner decision and the subsequent 2022 remand issue matrix, remand issues and resolutions matrix regarding the town center land use application. This is a condition of that decision and the subsequent remand issues and resolutions. And, you know, it really aligns the city better with the Southeast 4th improvement at the 225th Place intersection for future town center developments. Really, that's pretty much it. It's pretty much the same thing as what we had in the last meeting. So if you would like to deliberate or I'm not sure what the next process is. But
Actually, yeah, council will ask clarifying questions.
absolutely. Yep.
So council, I'm looking forward to your clarifying questions. If there aren't any, we'll move to public comment. Do we have any public commenters in the room? I think, Debbie, did you put in some? No, you didn't. Okay, so this is just old. Nothing? Okay, nobody online?
If anyone had pre-registered to comment at this hearing, please raise your hand online.
Okay.
I see no commenters. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So no public comment. I think I closed the hearing. Yeah. I'm going to close the hearing now, and I'll ask for the motion, the recorded motion here. Would someone like to?
No, I'm telling Karen too.
Look at my screen. Oh. Councilmember Clark.
Okay, I'll go. Okay. I move to adopt the ordinance 2025-579 as presented by staff to vacate this portion of public right-of-way.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, this seems very straightforward, but I'll let others.
Okay, seeing no one else, I think we could take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So motion carries, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we'll move to unfinished business or new business or council reports.
Nothing, just
We got me. Okay. So, very quickly, I don't know if anyone had a chance to take a look at what was sent out. I don't think the actual letter was attached. Yeah, it was. Was it finally? Okay, good. So the concern is that we're trying to get our storm damage covered and trying to appeal to Bob Ferguson to ensure that that actually happens. So apologies to council. I was not able to get it to you for a vote tonight. I just had to get it done to get presented today, so, or yesterday, actually. So I'm assuming that everyone is okay with us trying to get our funds recovered for storm damage.
Yes, and thank you for doing it.
Do other folks have other types of things they'd like to comment on? Scott, you would be other folk.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. I want to thank the community for coming out and joining for Lunar New Year on Saturday. We had almost 1,300 folks roll through over the 3-hour period, which is fantastic. Really want to thank everyone for coming out, and for those on the council that came out and joined, really appreciate them coming out. We also had some regional folks join us, which was great. So it's great to see the community come together around and celebrate our culture here in Sammamish. Separately, as you've noticed outside, it's the weather has been a little volatile, and so it's supposed to be cold overnight the next few nights, and we have the potential of some more precipitation of the white and fluffy variety. So encourage everyone to be prepared, drive safely, slow down. Roads are going to be icy. The crews will be out pre-treating, but we only can get to so much. So want to make sure everyone pays attention and takes their time over the next couple of days, just so that everyone stays safe. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else with an update?
Retreat.
Thank you. Thank you, former mayor, now Councilmember Clark. Want to encourage everyone to join us here at City Hall and Council Chambers for our retreat this Saturday, February 8th, from 8:30 to 3:30. And we will be here, and we have a lot of work to do that day, so encourage the community to come forward and join us and watch the council go through their planning process for the retreat. So thank you for the reminder, Councilmember.
Thanks. I'll just mention briefly that I've started to meet with a variety of other mayors around the area to ask them about how they're dealing with their structural imbalances with their budgets. And I have to say, it's been a really interesting conversation. As I do them, I'll be writing up notes so that you guys can see what other folks are doing or what they're contemplating. It's extremely valuable to have that kind of direct feedback about what's working for them and what isn't working for them. It's pretty clear to me so far is that there's a lot of things that we haven't done that many other cities have done. Just another quick note, just so to make sure everyone's aware, we did meet with, we being Deputy Mayor Lamb and I met with Sammamish Plateau Water and the North Water Group to just, work on our relationship and just make sure that we're, tied at the hip as best as we can and understand what each other's goals and objectives are. As residents will learn, if they haven't learned already, the Samplat's going to be adding a 20 million gallon storage tower, and they are also got a PFAS filtering issue that's going to be another $20 million. So we're looking at $40 million of additional costs that Samplat will be taking on. So I just want to just kind of raise public awareness about that because it's a thing that is happening and it's utility, it's what's going on. So that's it for me. If that's it for everybody else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second. Sorry, I thought Councilmember Tree was going for it. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Motion carries. Thank you and very good night to you all and drive safe.